Today's topic is something that many of our young people have come face to face with. Some were brave enough to go through with it, some didn't think that the risks were worth it, and some are just outright resentful. And some of us may have never faced it, but I feel like in today's day and age, and the fact that so many of our Asian communities live in the Western culture, this is something that's inevitable that we will come across either ourselves or friends and family around us. And this being multicultural marriages. Now, this is another very tricky topic. It's something that I obviously have not experienced myself, but having said that, a lot of people around me have, and also is something that is so present, and so many of us are trying to juggle whether we want to follow our heart and marry someone that we've fallen in love with, or do we want to listen to our parents, our traditions and our culture and stick to one of our own. If you haven't been here before, welcome. I'm Hamasa. I look at personal development as well as day-to-day issues and emotional and mental well-being. If you haven't been to my page before, please do subscribe so that you're up to date with my weekly content. Now, I've attended, by now once this video is published, I would have been attending a multicultural wedding. So the groom is of Pakistani heritage and the bride is of Caucasian English heritage, and they have been dating for about 4 years, I believe. I don't want to get this wrong. Anyway, they've been dating for a while and it's their wedding day, and it's a beautiful, wedding that both of the parents and families are coming together and the cultures are kind of merging and love is celebrated, which is amazing. But for many of us, that's not the case. And I've had many of you message me just saying that you're in love with your boyfriend or you're in love with your girlfriend, and yet their family won't accept you or your family won't accept them, and you don't really know what to do. Now, the first thing for us to consider is that there are so many things that are different now with us than it was with the previous generation of our parents and grandparents. The same way that our careers and jobs have shifted, and they're not necessarily the very conventional careers and jobs that our parents are used to. The same way that our studies, not everybody necessarily goes to university, whereas before it was very imposed by our families for us to go to uni. And now it's a lot more relaxed. People understand that, parents understand that you may just end up in a lot of debt and you may not necessarily need that degree to pursue the job or the career that you want. Of course, if you want to be a doctor or something that's very skilled, for that you would need to study. But things like medias and advertising is more what you learn on the job. So you don't necessarily need to have a degree for that. So the same way that education, living conditions, jobs, just dress, the way we dress, our culture and things have evolved and have adapted and have integrated into the Western society to an extent. It's the same way that it's the same energy that we need to use and apply when it comes to our relationships. Why is it that when it comes to relationships and marriage, it's left so far behind, is so limited? You have to marry someone that is of Afghan background. If not Afghan, then they have to be a Muslim. And if they're not a Muslim, don't even, it's blasphemous and you'll get disowned and you'll get thrown out. Is the sentiment across many, not just the Afghan culture, but again, many Asian cultures. And I don't understand why. If you're so adapted and utilize the other sides of the Western culture and you enjoy it and you use it and you've grown from it and you've integrated it and mixed and chosen bits that suit you from our culture and some from the Western culture, why is it that when it comes to relationships, it's such a one-track mind and such a closed-off mindset? Our lifestyles and the things that we do now should be also reflected in our relationships. Some of the reasons why families are so hesitant to allow their children to marry outside of their culture is because religious and cultural differences, obviously. And of course, I can respect that. I understand why parents have these hesitations, because things like religious upbringing, religious practices could be huge factors later on in the relationship if two people come from different backgrounds and they don't see eye to eye on these things. So this is why I'm going to link my video on Rush to Get Married or Marriage Pressures, where I discuss that it's incredibly important for us to cover these topics and talk about them thoroughly to see that we're eye to eye, because these are the fundamentals of life. Your children's upbringing, religious beliefs, that you do see eye to eye, and you do have common knowledge, and stand your ground with each other and support each other's views, especially when it comes to a multicultural marriage, because of course two people come from completely different upbringings, backgrounds, religious beliefs, and so you need to have a very good understanding of each other's backgrounds and see what you do accept and what you don't, and what you want to compromise on and what you don't. So it's very important for us to, when we choose a life partner, that we see eye to eye on this. But also it's important for us to let the parents understand that when someone's a good person, it's more likely that you will be happy in your marriage than someone being an awful person but from the same culture as you, or from the same background as you, or from the same religious beliefs as you. There is other factors that are more important than culture and religious beliefs, and that's general morals, kindness, faithfulness, fidelity, all of these things. So one of the reasons is obviously being unsure of allowing someone else from an outside culture to come into yours, but you need to explain this and make your parents understand that it's more about the person and your compatibility and you choosing a life partner. So discussing the actual reasons why you're choosing this person. All of these things kind of follow a similar pattern, which is having good reasoning, being very honest and open in your communication, and standing your ground, setting boundaries and standing your ground. Now, if your parents really impose on you to want to marry someone of your own background or from back home, then they should also have very good reasons why. And this should be discussed. Because it's not just like, because I said so. That's not how it works. No, people should choose their partners. That's not the method to go by because your parents said so. So a good discussion of the reasonings of both sides should be something that you should consider if you choose to marry someone that's outside of your culture. It should never be done out of spite. It should never be done out of anger. It should never be done to make a point or do it out of resent. Because you will end up resenting your partner for making you choose. It may not be a choice per se, but it will be a choice if your family is very against it. So you don't want that resent, you don't want that animosity, and you don't want to lose your family and not have them around for your birth of your children or your wedding and all of these things. So always try and take the amicable, peaceful route and communication. The next thing, the reason why parents usually would want you to marry someone within your own culture is, unfortunately, this is more so with Afghans, that if you marry a faraway distant relative, then it's a chance for them to come out of there through spousal support or whatever. So sometimes rather than looking at their children's happiness, they look at ways of getting out more family out of Afghanistan, and if it means by marriage, then be it. And that is obviously very wrong to do, and it's not fair on you to sacrifice your happiness, your future, what you want from life, because your parents think that you should get your sister's uncle's brother's neighbor's niece. No, that's not a good enough reason. The next thing that a lot of parents are concerned about, and that's just how our communities and cultures work, is the fact that what people will say. It's not about your happiness. It's not about what you want from life. It's not about the fact that you've fallen in love. It's the fact that people will frown upon it because it's just unconventional. And that is something, unfortunately, that we all have. And we have to put a stop to it and set some solid boundaries that, no, I'm not going to live my life just because of people. It's not about people. And again, if you have a solid understanding with your parents and your family, and you've set some good boundaries and you've got them on your side and they support you, what people say really doesn't matter, because the closest people to you support you. Everybody else has an opinion. It's really not down to them. It's really not their place to say. They don't know you, they don't know your partner, and if they push you into a relationship that you're not happy with, who's left to pick up the pieces? As I always say, It's you and you only. Those people who have an opinion now will not be around to make you feel better when things go wrong. What can they say? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's all. Would you want to live your life because someone's saying, I'm so sorry to hear that? Of course not. You've got to do what makes you happy. So the fact that people say something should not even be a factor. Unfortunately, it is. A lot of us do care. There's a lot of intrusion from our communities, but this is where you have to learn to set some boundaries. If you've grown enough to make a choice on who you want to marry and make that life choice and choose your spouse, you're grown enough to set some boundaries and maintain them. And finally, one of the things that a lot of Afghan parents say, and I don't know if that's a sentiment across other Asian cultures, is that, oh, if you marry someone that's not of our culture and is a foreigner, then it's more likely that you will also get a divorce just as easy as you got married, because divorce and things are a lot less frowned upon in their cultures, possibly if your spouse comes from a Caucasian background. Now, it might be culturally more acceptable in the West to get a divorce, but it also makes things that much more secure if things don't work out, because they follow the rules and laws, and there's certain precautions and rules and laws for single parents, so you're a lot more protected and more likely that you will get spousal support and your children will get some FaceTime with their other parent. Whereas in our cultures and communities, once there's a divorce or a separation, is full-blown war. There's unfortunately usually a big smear campaign, and if not that, then it's really, really like the two families go at war, the two spouses hate each other, they're not allowed to speak, there's no amicable relationship left, and kids are suffering. So those are the consequences of that also to consider, is the flip side of the divorce factor. And also, things like divorce and separation is becoming so common in our cultures too. So what's that to say that if it's with someone who's outside of our culture, it's more likely that it'll break down? In today's day and age, everybody kind of does it. And one other point that I really wanted to make is that why is there such a difference in treatment between a man wanting to marry someone outside of their culture and a woman wanting to marry someone outside of their culture? Because from what I know, and I've grown up in Russia, almost 60% of Afghan men that came to Russia, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, all of the old USSR and that region of the world ended up getting married to a Russian woman or a Ukrainian woman or a local person from that region. And it was never frowned upon. It was kind of acceptable. And if anything, a thing of pride and celebrated by the parents and families, so on. But God forbid, that's a woman who wants to marry outside of the culture. And that's something that we really need to get over and accept. Like, if it's wrong, then it should be wrong for both men and women. And if it's right, then why are you punishing your girls so much for the same reasons that you're celebrating your boys? It's about time that we really take a stance on this and break these generational curses. This whole mistreatment and gender favoritism is just appalling, and we really need to overcome that. Rant over. I've mentioned this before, I'm going to mention it again. My advice to anyone who wants to marry outside of their culture and they know that it's going to be a big fight and a battle. First of all, once you make that choice and make that decision, make sure that you support your partner and you have their back through and through. Secondly, if you and your partner are constantly arguing and you don't really have a good foundation or a base, forget about it. It's just not going to work. Because this may be the case with someone within your own culture too, but the difference is that the family and the friends may not get so involved or be so manipulative when it comes to one of your own, because they don't want to see the cracks or they don't really want to point out what's there. But when it comes to someone who's outside of our culture, because majority of the people around you would probably not support it, they will nitpick and try and manipulate the situation and try and get in your head and try and break you down and try and make you argue and fight and see the cracks that they believe they see. So if you don't have a good foundation and a strong connection with your partner, respect, utmost respect, support, and understanding, don't even bother rocking the boat or taking that step, because they will get in your head, and it may not be your family, it may be their family. But if there are people against this union, there will be people who will try and get in your heads. And if you two don't see eye to eye, if you two don't have each other's back, if you two tell all your problems to the people around you, that will come back and bite you in the ass, and it will be used as ammunition against you, and it will create tension and commotion. And if you're seeing arguments up in the planning of the wedding, in the coming together of the families, of every step of the way, you and your partner are biting each other's heads off, are taking everything out on each other, don't see eye to eye or agree on how things should be done, those are your signs that this union may not necessarily last. Because like I say, a relationship is always a great reflection of what your marriage would be like. Use that as the trial period, not as, it's bad now but it'll improve later. No, it's just that your problems are emphasized and put into perspective even more so if you guys don't see eye to eye. So you have to talk about all the things, all the differences that you and your partner have, all the things that you agree and disagree with, and then together, having found your solutions, having found the middle ground, move forward and as a unit approach this topic and deal with it as a unit. Do not let them come between you guys. If that happens, that's it. Like, there are cracks already, and it's no point wasting anyone's time or going through the aggro. That would be my advice to you guys. And if you look at the grand scheme of things, a lot of us have come to this country, have moved here, have integrated, settled, have been given job opportunities, educational opportunities, housing, passports, healthcare, and we've been accepted for who we are as people, regardless of the color of our skin, regardless of our professions, regardless of what we bring to the table. We have been accepted as people and as humans. And we expect that. And if we don't get that, we're offended and we feel that it's being discriminative and all those things. So why is it that we cannot reciprocate that sentiment back when it comes to our kids getting married to someone outside of our culture? Why can't we accept that person as the human being that they are? And why must we judge them on the color of their skin or their religious beliefs or their culture and background? Why is it that we expect a certain treatment for ourselves and give someone else completely different treatment? If that's what truly makes our children happy, we really have to start accepting people, for humans, for what they are and nothing else. And that would be what I would want to leave this video on, because at the end of the day, we're all people and we're all trying to make the most out of this life and be happy. And if it's with someone that they've fallen in love with, why the hell not? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have, please do subscribe to my page, like and comment on this video, and please do share your experiences or share this video with someone who may find it helpful. And I will see you guys here again next week. Thank you so much for watching. Mwah.